The heavy oak door stood between two worlds. On one side, a dying king. On the other, a woman who wanted his crown before he was ready to give it up. Sergeant James Thornton had guarded many doors in his 23 years of service to the British royal family. But never one like this. Never one where he could hear the labored breathing of a monarch through the wood. Never one where he'd been told, in whispers, to keep certain people out. It was 3 a.m. The hallway of Balmoral Castle stretched dark and empty in both directions. James stood at attention, his red uniform pressed sharp, his face expressionless. But his heart hammered against his ribs. King Charles had been sick for 6 weeks. The doctors called it pneumonia. The palace called it a minor respiratory infection. But James had seen the king 2 days ago when the medical team rushed in. The man looked like a ghost, pale, thin, struggling to breathe, and now, footsteps. They echoed down the corridor, slow, deliberate, the kind of footsteps that belonged to someone who owned the place. If you're watching this story unfold, hit that subscribe button now. You won't believe where this is going. James's jaw tightened. He knew those footsteps. Queen Camilla appeared from around the corner. She wore a silk robe, cream-colored and expensive. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Good morning, Sergeant Thornton," she said softly. "Your Majesty." James bowed his head slightly, but he didn't move from the door. "I'd like to see my husband." "I'm afraid that's not possible right now." "Ma'am." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sorry." "The king is resting. Doctor's orders. No visitors until morning." Camilla took a step closer. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air between them. "Sergeant, I am not a visitor. I am his wife. I am the queen consort, and I will see him now." James's hands remained clasped behind his back. He could feel sweat forming on his palms. "With respect, Your Majesty, my orders come directly from the king's private physician. No one enters until 6 a.m. Your orders." Her voice dropped, cold as winter. "I give the orders here." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The castle seemed to hold its breath around them. Then Camilla smiled again. This time, it was different. "Dangerous, I see." She turned slightly as if to leave. Then she looked back. "Tell me, Sergeant, how is your daughter?" "Emma, isn't it?" "She's at university now, yes?" "Oxford." James's blood ran cold. "Expensive place, Oxford," Camilla continued, her tone casual. "Especially for a guard's salary. But I hear she's doing wonderfully. It would be a shame if anything disrupted her studies." A threat hung in the air like poison. James had known this moment might come. Earlier that evening, Prince William had pulled him aside. The prince's face had been drawn with worry and exhaustion. "My father's vulnerable right now," William had said quietly. "There are people who might try to take advantage. People who want to make decisions he's not ready to make. Decisions about his care, about his future." William hadn't said her name. He hadn't needed to. "If anyone tries to enter his room tonight," William had continued, "anyone at all, you stop them. I don't care who they are. My father's life may depend on it." Now, standing in that hallway, James understood the weight of those words. Camilla was still watching him, waiting for his resolve to crack. But James had sworn an oath. Not to her, to the crown, to the king. "My orders stand, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "No one enters until morning." Camilla's expression hardened into something cold and terrible. "You've made a very serious mistake." "Sergeant," she turned and walked away, her footsteps sharp against the stone floor. James remained at his post. Alone in the darkness, he had no idea what he'd just set in motion. Asterisk, asterisk. 20 minutes passed. James didn't move from the door. Inside the room, he could still hear the king's breathing. Raspy, uneven. Each breath sounded like a struggle. Then new footsteps. Multiple sets this time. James's stomach dropped. Camilla returned with 3 men. 2 wore dark suits, royal security badges glinting at their chests. The third was older, wearing a palace administrator's uniform. Gerald Humphrey. Head of royal household staff, Humphrey's face looked uncomfortable, conflicted. Sergeant Thornton, Humphrey said, his voice formal. Step aside, please. I have orders from Prince William and the King's physician, James replied steadily. No one enters until morning. Your orders have been superseded, Humphrey said. He pulled a document from his jacket. Even in the dim hallway light, James could see the royal seal. Queen Camilla has invoked her authority as queen consort. She has the right to see her husband, immediately. James looked at the paper. His mind raced. Technically, Humphrey was right. Camilla did have authority. But William's warning echoed in his mind. My father's life may depend on it, sir, James said carefully. I need confirmation from Prince William before I can. Prince William is not here, Camilla interrupted. Her voice was ice. He's in London. I am here. My husband is behind that door, and you are going to move. Now. One of the security guards stepped forward. Younger, broader, his hand moved to his belt. Don't make this difficult, mate, the guard said quietly. James's heart pounded. He was one man against three. If they wanted to move him, they could. But if he stepped aside without a fight, he'd be abandoning his duty. Abandoning the king, he thought of his daughter, Emma, her bright smile when she'd gotten into Oxford, the pride in her eyes. Camilla's threat had been clear. His career, Emma's future. Everything could disappear. But he also thought of the king, the man he'd sworn to protect. I'm not moving, James said. Camilla's face flushed with anger. You insolent wait. Humphrey raised a hand. He looked at James with something that might have been respect or pity. Sergeant, I understand your position. But you must understand, refusing a direct order from the queen consort is grounds for immediate dismissal. Criminal charges, potentially. I understand, sir. Your pension, your daughter's support, everything. I understand. Humphrey sighed. Then you leave me no choice. He nodded to the two guards. They moved forward. James didn't resist. He couldn't win a physical fight, but he could slow them down as the first guard reached for his arm. A voice cut through the hallway. Stop. Everyone froze. From the shadows at the far end of the corridor, another figure emerged. Dr. Margaret Fletcher, the king's personal physician. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair and sharp eyes. She'd been treating Charles for 30 years. What is happening here? She demanded. Dr. Fletcher, Camilla said, composing herself. I'm simply trying to see my husband. This guard is being unreasonable. The king is sleeping, Dr. Fletcher said firmly. He needs rest. I gave explicit orders. No visitors until morning. I am not a visitor, Camilla snapped. I'm his wife, and I am his doctor. Dr. Fletcher walked closer, her small frame somehow commanding the entire hallway. The king's immune system is compromised. He's fighting a serious infection. Any disruption to his rest could be dangerous. Potentially fatal? Fatal? Camilla's laugh was sharp. You're being dramatic, am I? Dr. Fletcher pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen, then turned it toward Camilla. These are his vital signs from 2 hours ago. Heart rate elevated. Oxygen saturation dropping. His body is barely holding on. Camilla's face went pale, but her eyes hardened. Then I should be with him, she said. As his wife, if he's truly that ill? Dr. Fletcher studied her for a long moment. The hallway was silent, except for the distant ticking of a clock. What do you want, Camilla? The doctor asked quietly. The use of her first name, without title, made everyone tense. Camilla's jaw clenched. I want to see my husband. No, Dr. Fletcher said. What do you really want? The two women stared at each other. Years of unspoken history passed between them. Dr. Fletcher had been there through Diana, through the scandals. Through everything. I want what's best for the crown, Camilla finally said. Charles is the crown. Charles is dying. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Camilla's mask slipped, just for a moment. We both know it. Stop pretending. Dr. Fletcher's expression didn't change. He's ill. He's not dying. He's been ill for 6 weeks. He's getting worse, not better. He's stabilizing, is he? Camilla stepped closer. Or are you just buying time? Time for what, Margaret? For William to rush back? To make sure I don't have a say in what happens next? The truth was out now, floating in the air between them. This wasn't about a wife wanting to see her sick husband. This was about power, about succession, about who controlled the future of the monarchy, and James stood at the center of it all. Dr. Fletcher's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face changed. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or urgency. I need to check on the king, she said abruptly. Alone. She moved toward the door. James stepped aside for her immediately. She was the only person he had clearance to allow through. But as Dr. Fletcher's hand touched the door handle, Camilla grabbed her wrist. If you go in there, Camilla said quietly, I'm coming with you. Dr. Fletcher yanked her arm free. Absolutely not. He's my husband. He's my patient. And you're not going in. Camilla's face twisted with rage. She turned to Humphrey. Gerald, I am ordering you. The doctor's authority supersedes yours in medical matters. Your Majesty, Humphrey said quickly. He looked relieved to have a rule to hide behind. I'm sorry, but this is absurd. Camilla's voice rose, echoing down the stone corridor. I have a right. The door opened. Everyone went silent. King Charles stood in the doorway. James's breath caught. The king looked terrible. His face was gray, his eyes sunken. He wore pajamas that hung loose on his thinning frame. One hand gripped the doorframe for support. The other held an oxygen tube, which trailed back to a machine inside the room. But he was standing, and his eyes were clear. What? He said, his voice hoarse but firm. Is going on out here? Charles. Camilla's tone changed instantly. Soft, concerned.
Darling.
You shouldn't be out of bed. It's hard to sleep with people shouting outside my door. He looked at each of them in turn. His gaze lingered on James. Sergeant Thornton. Report. James stood straighter. Your Majesty, I was following orders to ensure your rest was not disturbed. Whose orders? Prince William, sir, and Dr. Fletcher's. Charles nodded slowly. He looked at Camilla. You wanted to see me? Yes. She stepped forward, reaching for his hand. I've been worried sick. They wouldn't let me in, because I told them not to. Charles's words were quiet but sharp. I told them I needed rest. No visitors. Not even you. Camilla's face went pale. Charles, I'm your wife. I should be with you when you're ill. Should respect my wishes. He coughed, a deep rattling sound. Dr. Fletcher moved to support him, but he waved her off. I know what you want, Camilla. I want you to get better.
Do you?
He looked at her, and there was something broken in his expression. Sad, resigned. Or do you want to move me somewhere more convenient? A hospital in London, perhaps, where you can control the information. Control who sees me. Control what decisions get made if I become incapacitated. The accusation hung in the air. Camilla's eyes filled with tears. Real or performed, James couldn't tell. How can you say that? I love you. I know you do. Charles's voice softened. But you love the crown more? You always have. That's not fair, isn't it? He straightened slightly, forcing strength into his voice. You came here tonight with security. With Humphrey? With paperwork giving you authority over my care? You didn't come as a wife. You came as a queen preparing for a transition. Charles, please. William knows what you're planning. Duh. The king's voice grew harder. He knows you've been meeting with advisors, preparing, making arrangements for what happens when. I'm too weak to make my own decisions. Camilla's tears stopped. Her face became a mask. Someone has to think about the future. The future. Charles laughed, bitter and painful. I'm still alive, Camilla. I'm still king? For how long? The words came out sharp, brutal. She seemed to regret them instantly, but couldn't take them back. Silence crashed down around them. Charles swayed slightly. Dr. Fletcher grabbed his arm. Your Majesty, you need to sit down. But Charles ignored her. He looked at Camilla with an expression that was somehow both loving and heartbroken. I made you queen, he said quietly. I fought for you. For decades. Against everyone. Against my own children. Against the entire country. Because I loved you. Because I believed in us. Charles, and now you can't even give me the dignity of dying on my own terms. You're not dying? Camilla's voice cracked. For the first time, she sounded genuinely desperate. Stop saying that. You're going to recover. You just need proper care. Real doctors. Not just Margaret? Charles glanced at Dr. Fletcher.
Ash!
She's been keeping me alive, Camilla. When your preferred doctors wanted to move me to London, she's the one who said no. She's the one who knew that if I left Balmoral, I'd never leave that hospital. Camilla's face went white. That's not true, isn't it? Charles coughed again, harder this time. Blood flecked his lips. Dr. Fletcher immediately pulled him back toward the room. But before he went inside, Charles looked at James. Sergeant Thornton, he said, you followed your orders? You protected your king. Thank you, Your Majesty. James's voice was thick with emotion. Charles looked back at Camilla one more time. Go to bed, Camilla. In the morning, we'll talk. But tonight I need to be alone. He disappeared into the room. Dr. Fletcher followed. Closing the door firmly behind them, the lock clicked. Camilla stood in the hallway, trembling. Her perfect composure had shattered. She looked smaller somehow. Older. She turned to James. For a moment, he thought she might scream at him. Fire him. Make good on her threats. Instead, she just looked tired. You have no idea what you've done, she whispered. Then she walked away. Alone in the darkness, James didn't sleep for the rest of the night. He stood at that door until 6 in the morning, exactly as ordered. His legs ached. His back screamed. But he didn't move. Around 5:30, as dawn began to creep through the castle windows, Humphrey returned. Alone this time, the older man looked exhausted, defeated. Sergeant, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. James didn't respond. He kept his eyes forward. I should have backed you up earlier, Humphrey continued. But she's the queen consort. The pressure she can bring to bear. He trailed off. I have a family too. I'm sure you understand. James finally looked at him. Did she send you to fire me? No, Humphrey rubbed his face. But she will. Maybe not today, maybe not this week. But eventually, she'll find a way. She always does, I know. Then why did you do it? Why risk everything? James thought about that. About Emma. About his pension. About all the years of service he could lose. Then he thought about the look in King Charles's eyes when he'd said thank you. 'Cause it was the right thing to do, James said simply. Humphrey smiled sadly. The right thing to do is rarely the safe thing to do. No, sir. It's not. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Humphrey pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket. Prince William called 30 minutes ago, he said. He's on his way. He'll be here by noon. He handed James the paper. This is a formal commendation. For your actions tonight. William wanted it in your file immediately before anything else happens. James took the paper. His hands were steady now. Thank you, sir. Humphrey nodded. The king is lucky to have people like you. Like William. Like Dr. Fletcher. He paused. He's going to need all of you in the days ahead. Is he really dying, sir? Humphrey's face grew somber. I don't know. But I know this. There are people who would prefer he didn't recover. People who think the monarchy needs a fresh start. Younger leadership. A cleaner image. Camilla. And others, advisors, politicians, people who see opportunity in tragedy. Humphrey turned to leave, then stopped. Watch your back, Sergeant. You've made powerful enemies tonight. After Humphrey left, James was alone again. At 6 a.m. exactly, the door opened. Dr. Fletcher stepped out. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. How is he? James asked. Alive, she said. For now. She looked at James with something like kinship. You stood your ground? I followed orders, ma'am. Asterisk, no. She shook her head. You did more than that. You chose a side in a war most people don't even know is happening. What war? Dr. Fletcher glanced down the empty corridor. The war for Charles's legacy. For what kind of king he gets to be in his final chapter. Whether he dies with dignity on his own terms, or whether he's managed and controlled and hidden away until he's just a symbol. Dr. Fletcher, I'm just a guard. I don't understand palace politics. Then you're lucky. But you're in it now, whether you understand it or not. Camilla won't forget this. Neither will her allies. I can handle Camilla. Can you? Dr. Fletcher's eyes were sad. She's not evil, you know? She loves him. In her way, but she also loves power. And when those two things come into conflict... She didn't finish the sentence. James wanted to ask more, but Dr. Fletcher was already walking away. He returned to his post. The castle began to wake up around him. Servants passed. Other guards changed shifts. No one spoke to him, but everyone knew. Word had spread fast. The guard who defied the queen. At 8 a.m., James's phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Dad, just heard from Uncle Peter that you're in trouble. Are you okay? Please call me. James's heart sank. Peter was his brother-in-law, who worked in palace communications. If the story had reached him already, it was spreading everywhere. He texted back, I'm fine. Don't worry. Focus on your studies. Another buzz. Dad, if you need money for a lawyer or anything, I can drop out. Oxford can wait. James's throat tightened. Don't you dare. I'm fine. I promise. But he wasn't sure if that was true. At 9 a.m., a new guard arrived to relieve him. Young, nervous. Sergeant Thornton, the young man said, I'm to take over the king's door. James looked at him. Orders from whom? Captain Morris, sir. Morris was James's direct superior. A good man, fair. James nodded and stepped aside. His shift was over. He'd done his duty. As he walked down the corridor toward the barracks, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him press accept. Sergeant Thornton, a woman's voice. Cultured. Cold. Yes. This is Patricia Morland. I'm calling on behalf of Queen Camilla. James's blood went cold. Her Majesty wanted me to inform you that your actions last night have been noted. A formal review of your conduct will be initiated. I was following orders from Prince William and me. Dr. Fletcher. That's for the review, too. Determine, her tone was clipped. Professional. You'll receive official notification within 24 hours. Until then, you're suspended from active duty. Suspended. Pending investigation. It's standard procedure when a guard refuses a direct order from a member of the royal family. James's jaw clenched. I didn't refuse an order. I followed the proper chain of command. That's your perspective. Her Majesty sees it differently. Of course she does. I'd advise you to watch your tone, Sergeant. Things can get much worse for you. The threat was clear. James took a breath. Is there anything else? Yes. Patricia's voice dropped lower. Her Majesty also wanted me to mention that she's taken a personal interest in your daughter's scholarship fund. Apparently there was an irregularity in the paperwork. It may need to be reviewed. James's hand tightened on the phone. My daughter's scholarship has nothing to do with this. Doesn't it? These things are all connected, Sergeant. Palace employment, family benefits, educational funding. It's all part of the same system. A system that requires loyalty. I am loyal. To the crown. The crown, Patricia said coldly, is about to change hands. You might want to consider where your loyalties will lie when that happens. She hung up. James stood in the empty corridor, phone in hand, heart racing. The war Dr. Fletcher had mentioned wasn't coming. It was already here. James sat in his small quarters in the staff wing of Balmoral. The room was sparse. A bed, a desk. A photo of Emma on graduation day. He stared at that photo for a long time. His phone rang again. This time, he recognized the number. Captain Maurice. Sir James answered. Thornton. Maurice's voice was tight. I just got word about your suspension. Yes, sir. It's bullshit. Maurice had never been one for careful language. You followed protocol? You protected the king. That's your job. The queen consort sees it differently. The queen consort can Morris stopped himself. Never mind. Listen, I'm working on this. I've got calls into William's office. To palace security, this suspension won't stick. They're going after my daughter's scholarship. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, Christ. Yeah, James, I'm sorry. I didn't think they'd go that far. I knew they might, James said. I did it anyway. Why? It was the same question Humphrey had asked. James gave the same answer. Because it was the right thing. Maurice sighed. The right thing doesn't always win, James. You know that? I know. But for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. And so are the other men. Word spreading. You've become something of a legend in the last 6 hours. James laughed bitterly. A legend who's about to lose everything. Maybe. But you stood up to power. In a place like this, that's rare. That matters. After Morris hung up, James sat in silence. His mind raced through possibilities. Lawyers, appeals, fighting the suspension. But he knew how these things worked. The palace had unlimited resources, unlimited influence. If they wanted him gone, he'd be gone. The only question was how much they'd destroy on the way out. A knock at his door, James opened it to find Dr. Fletcher standing there. Still in the same clothes from the night before, she looked exhausted but determined. May I come in? She asked. Of course, ma'am. She entered and sat in his desk chair without ceremony. They're coming after you, I know. Your daughter's scholarship, your pension, probably criminal charges if they can manufacture them. I know, and you're just sitting here? James looked at her. What would you have me do, doctor? I'm one guard. They're the royal family. Not all of them. Dr. Fletcher leaned forward. William landed 30 minutes ago. He's on his way here now. He knows what happened. He knows what Camilla's doing. William can't protect me from this. He's not king yet, no. But his father is. Dr. Fletcher pulled out her phone. Charles woke up an hour ago. He's weak, but he's coherent. And he's furious. She showed James the phone screen. An email from the king's private secretary. James scanned it quickly. His heart began to pound. It was an order. Direct from King Charles. All proceedings against Sergeant James Thornton were to be immediately halted. The suspension was void. The scholarship investigation was to be dropped. And anyone who continued to pursue action against Thornton would be in violation of a direct royal command. He did this. James whispered. He dictated it to his secretary from his hospital bed. Took him 20 minutes because he had to keep stopping to breathe. But he did it. Dr. Fletcher smiled grimly. He's still king. He still has power. And he used it to protect you. James felt something break inside him. Relief. Gratitude. Something else he couldn't name. Asterisk why? Because you protected him when he was vulnerable. Because you chose duty over safety. Because he knows what Camilla was really trying to do last night. And it scared him? What was she trying to do? Dr. Fletcher stood and walked to the small window. Outside, the Scottish Highlands stretched green and vast under gray morning skies. 3 weeks ago, she said quietly, Camilla's personal doctor approached me. Dr. Richard Hastings. Very respected. Works for several members of the royal family. I know him. He suggested that Charles should be moved to London. To a private hospital. He said the facilities there were better. That Charles would recover faster. And I said no. Because I know that hospital. I know the doctors there. And I know that once Charles was in that system, he wouldn't be making his own medical decisions anymore. Camilla would. Along with her advisors. James felt cold. You'd think she'd kill him? Dr. Fletcher turned back. No, I don't think that. But I think she'd make sure he was managed, kept comfortable, kept quiet. And if his condition worsened, I think certain decisions about his care might be made without his input. That's treason? Murder. I don't know what to call it. Dr. Fletcher's face was hard. All I know is that in that hospital, Charles would stop being a person and start being a problem to be solved. And Camilla would solve it in the way that's best for the monarchy, which means best for her. James sat down heavily on his bed. Why are you telling me this? Because William asked me to. Dr. Fletcher checked her watch. He'll be here in 20 minutes. He wants to talk to you, to thank you personally, and to ask for your help. My help. I'm just a guard. You're a man who did the right thing when it mattered most. That's exactly the kind of person William needs right now. She moved toward the door. Get cleaned up. Put on a fresh uniform. The prince is coming. After she left, James sat for a long moment. Then he stood, showered, and changed into his dress uniform. His hands shook as he buttoned his jacket. 23 years of service. He'd guarded politicians, diplomats, minor royals. He'd stood at ceremonies and state dinners, but he'd never had a private audience with the heir to the throne. The knock came exactly 20 minutes later. James opened the door. Prince William stood there alone. No security, no staff. Just a tired-looking man in casual clothes who hadn't slept. Sergeant Thornton, William said. May I come in? Your Royal Highness? James stepped aside quickly. William entered and closed the door. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then William extended his hand. Thank you for protecting my father. James shook his hand. William's grip was firm, grateful. I was just doing my duty, sir. No, William shook his head. You did more than that. You risked your career, your family's future. You stood alone against people with real power. It's paused. That's not duty. That's courage. James didn't know what to say. William sat in the desk chair. He looked at Emma's photo. Your daughter? Yes, sir, Emma. She's at Oxford. She must be proud of you. I don't know if she'll be proud when I can't afford her tuition anymore. That won't happen. William's voice was firm. My father's order stands. No one touches your family. I'll make sure of it personally. Thank you, sir. William rubbed his face. He looked young suddenly, vulnerable. I need to ask you something, Sergeant, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course, sir, last night, when Camilla came to that door, William met James's eyes. What did you see? What did you hear? James hesitated. Then he told the truth. He told William everything. William listened without interrupting. When James finished, the prince sat in silence for a long time. She threatened your daughter, William finally said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. And you still didn't move. No, sir. William stood and walked to the window. His shoulders were tight with tension. My father loves her. He's loved her his entire adult life, waited decades to marry her, sacrificed everything for her. James said nothing. But love and trust aren't the same thing. William turned back. His eyes were red. I've watched her for years, watched how she operates. She's brilliant, strategic. She knows how to survive in this system. But she's also, he struggled for words. She's willing to do things that cross lines. Your Royal Highness, I'm not sure I should be hearing this. You need to hear it. William's voice was urgent, because I'm going to ask you to do something. Something that could put you in danger again. James straightened. Sir, my father's condition is worse than the public knows. Dr. Fletcher has been honest with me. He has maybe weeks, maybe less. William's voice cracked slightly. When he dies, there will be a transition, a period where power shifts, where Camilla will have influence as the Queen Dowager, where decisions will be made about his legacy, about what he's remembered for. Sir, I don't understand what you're asking. I'm asking you to stay close to my father, to be his guard, his witness, to make sure that whatever happens in his final days, it happens according to his wishes, not hers. The weight of those words settled over James like a stone. You want me to guard the king against his own wife? I want you to guard his dignity, his choices. His final chapter? William moved closer. Camilla will try again. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not this week. But she'll try to move him. To control the narrative. To make decisions for him when he's too weak to fight back. I need someone there who won't bend. Someone who's already proven they can stand against her. James thought of Emma. Of his pension. Of everything he'd nearly lost just hours ago. He thought of Camilla's cold eyes in that hallway. He thought of King Charles. Gray and weak, but still fighting for his own autonomy. Yes, sir, James said. I'll do it. William's relief was visible. Thank you. I'll make it official. You'll be assigned to my father's personal detail permanently. You'll answer directly to Dr. Fletcher and me? No one else. What about Camilla? Let me worry about Camilla, William's jaw set. She's going to be angry. She's going to push back. But she won't have the authority to remove you. Not anymore. William moved toward the door, then stopped. Sergeant, I need you to understand something. What I'm asking you to do. It's not really about my father anymore. He's made his peace with dying. He told me that this morning. Then what is it about? It's about making sure the monarchy survives this transition with its dignity intact. If Camilla gets her way, if my father dies surrounded by handlers and spin doctors, if his last days are controlled and sanitized and turned into a PR campaign, William's voice grew quiet. Then everything he stood for dies with him. Everything he tried to be as king becomes meaningless. James understood. This wasn't just about one old man dying in a castle. It was about what kind of institution the monarchy would be going forward. Whether it served its people with humanity, or whether it was just a machine that consumed everyone who served it. I won't let that happen, sir. William nodded. I know you won't. That's why I chose you. After William left, James stood alone in his room. He should have felt afraid. He should have felt the weight of what he'd just agreed to. Instead, he felt something else. Purpose. His phone buzzed. Emma. Dad, Mom just called. She said she heard you're in trouble. Please tell me what's happening. James sat on his bed and called her back. She answered on the first ring. Asterisk, Dad? Hey, sweetheart. I'm okay. Mom said you might lose your job. That you stood up to the Queen or something? She didn't have details. The whole family is worried. James smiled. I did what I thought was right. It caused some problems, but they're resolved now. Are you sure? I'm sure. He paused. Em, I want you to know something. No matter what happens going forward, I want you to stay at Oxford. Finish your degree. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about me. Just focus on your future. Dad, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. Just be proud of who you are, of what you're becoming. His voice grew thick. I know I am. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Asterisk. After he hung up, James sat for a moment. Then he stood, straightened his uniform, and walked back toward the king's wing. His new post was waiting. When he arrived, the young guard from earlier was still there. The kid looked relieved to see him. Sergeant Thornton, sir. Prince William just sent word. You're to resume your post immediately. James nodded. Go get some rest, son. The young guard left quickly. James took his position outside the king's door. The hallway was empty. Quiet. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, painting everything gold. Inside, he could hear voices. Dr. Fletcher. The king. Speaking quietly. He heard Charles laugh at something. A weak sound, but genuine. James smiled. Then footsteps. From the far end of the corridor, he didn't need to look to know who it was. He could feel her presence like cold wind. Camilla appeared around the corner. She walked slowly, deliberately. When she saw James at his post, she stopped. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Camilla smiled. It was a sad smile, a resigned smile. A smile that said she knew she'd lost this battle, but not the war. Good morning, Sergeant Thornton, she said quietly. Your Majesty. James bowed his head slightly. She studied him. William got to you. The prince made me aware of my new assignment. Yes, ma'am, I see. She came closer. Stopped a respectful distance away. You know, Sergeant, in another life, We might have been allies. You're loyal, strong, principled. Those are rare qualities. Thank you, ma'am, but your loyalty is to him. She glanced at the door. Not to the institution. Not to the crown. To Charles, the man. I serve the king, your majesty. The king is dying. She said it gently, sadly. And when he's gone, who will you serve? William, the crown? Or just the memory of an old man who showed you kindness? James didn't answer. Camilla sighed. I'm not the villain in this story, Sergeant. I know that's how you see me, how William sees me. But I'm trying to protect something too. Something bigger than one person's dignity. The future. She looked at him with something that might have been respect. Charles is a good man, a kind man, but he's also weak, indecisive. The monarchy needs strength. Right now, leadership. Someone who understands that sometimes dignity has to be sacrificed for survival. With respect. Your Majesty, I disagree. I know you do. Camilla smiled again. That same sad smile. But time will tell which of us is right. Time always does. She turned and walked away. Her footsteps echoed down the empty corridor until they faded completely. James stood at his post, alone again. Behind the door, King Charles coughed, then laughed again at something Dr. Fletcher said. James closed his eyes and breathed deep. He'd made his choice. He'd picked his side. And whatever came next, whatever price he'd pay, he knew it was worth it. Because in the end, dignity mattered more than power. And some doors were worth guarding, no matter who came knocking. Inside the room, the king's voice called out, Margaret, who's on door duty today? Sergeant Thornton, your majesty. Good. That's good. A pause. Make sure you get some tea. And breakfast. Man's probably been standing out there all night. I'll take care of it, sir. A few minutes later, the door opened. Dr. Fletcher handed James a cup of tea and a sandwich. From the king, she said. Thank you, ma'am. She smiled at him. A real smile. Warm. No, Sergeant. Thank you. The door closed again. James stood at his post, tea in hand, the morning sun warming his face. His career had been threatened. His family had been threatened. He'd made powerful enemies. But he'd also done something rare and precious. He'd stood his ground. And in a palace full of compromise and calculation and careful politics that mattered more than he'd ever know, the king was still king. The door was still guarded. And James Thornton, Royal Guard, had found his purpose. Whatever came next, he was ready.